Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What. Today I've got Luke Tobin on, and he's the founder of Digital Ethos and Tobin Capital. Hi, Luke.
Hi, Dan. Good to see you.
Pleasure to have you on the podcast, mate. I think we've been going backwards and forwards for a little bit,
Yeah,
trying to get this all organised. But it's a pleasure to have you on. I think, a bit of news came out recently that you've actually just sold your agency.
I have indeed. Yeah, I have.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, but it's definitely nice to realize some value and take a little bit of weight off the old shoulders. So no, it's good.
Yeah, amazing. Luke, should we jump straight in? And do you want to tell everyone a bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the primary thing that I've been working on for the last 7 years is a marketing agency, Digital Ethos. Scaled it from just myself and a few freelancers that I had dotted around the globe, which had its challenges trying to work with freelancers at different time zones and all the rest of it. To then building up from 2018 with our first employees to around 55 professionals now in the UK, a couple in the US. We've got a Toronto office, also an office we opened in Germany
Wow.
uh, through to the acquisition. So yeah, very much a marketing agency. And then
This
outside, so gone.
Sorry, this always amazes me about marketing agencies that you all seem to build offices in a lot of different countries. That's quite a common thing, isn't it, in marketing agencies? And just out off the top of my head, why do you
Hmm.
guys do that apart from the sort of obvious answers to that?
Um, for us, it was quite opportunistic, really. We had clients that were based in those markets and they wanted a local presence, and we wanted to make sure we kept the relationship. So we put some feet on the street. But I know a lot of agencies do it from a cost base employee perspective. The UK market's been quite hard and very competitive for staff. So I think that's probably been part of it.
Mhm.
Also, it looks nice to have a few dots on the map, but obviously, if you can service clients and understand those localized challenges, it definitely goes a long way.
Sure. And then you've got another sort of business you have called Tobin Capital, right?
Exactly, yeah. Tobin Capital is my funding accelerator for scale up and startup businesses. I've been doing that for a few years. It's quite nice actually. The day to day at Digital Ethos is, from a CEO perspective, is quite intense and certainly starts to kill a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit. Whereas Tobin Capital allows me to still focus on that side of my personality.
So how did that part come about then? Because that's a really interesting sort of not side business, but a different business for you to get involved with. Because I think maybe the marketing skills are very different to investing into startup companies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think first and foremost, I'm entrepreneurial. So I've had, I don't know, half a dozen businesses throughout my life. Marketing has just been the more recent one, and the most successful, luckily. Um, but yeah, Tobin Capital really it came about because of my love for startup businesses. I started getting opportunities. Having a marketing agency is quite handy because you get a lot of scale up companies that come to you and they're interested in a bit of sweat equity, or is there anything we can do on the pricing? It's like, well, no, we can't do it on the pricing, but there might be a bit of advisory work or whatever. So it sort of
Mm.
led into just again opportunistic, really. I sort of realized that I had a bit of a knack for it, a love for it, and started then doing some sort of exchange of service as well as some cash based investments, and a couple of those have luckily been very successful.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it, isn't it? Like you say, being approached with opportunities, but some agency owners may have turned that away, but you've actually taken it and turned it into another business, which is obviously a very entrepreneurial thing to do. But taking this back a little bit, how did you first get into the world of marketing?
I worked in the commercial side of marketing, so more of the business development, sales side, probably on and off now for around 15, 16 years. A mix of software and marketing agencies, direct and online marketing. Um, 10 years ago, I worked in an agency, absolutely fell in love with the digital space. Google and all the main publishers were really thriving and starting to take a lot of momentum. And I just fell in love with it. And I thought, God, I just really would love to one day have my own agency, and looked at some of the challenges that I think that sit between clients and agencies. There's often a bit of no man's land that sits in between, where there's kind of a bit of mistrust and they don't always seem to connect as well as they should. And I saw an opportunity there to do that a bit differently, and that's how I founded Digital Ethos.
And I find this really interesting because there are thousands upon thousands of marketing agencies in the UK these days.
There is.
But why do you think your marketing agency was successful over others that aren't?
There's a lot of you're right. It's an extremely competitive space. I actually read somewhere recently, and I think it was on the Drum. There's like 6,500 agencies in the
Wow.
UK. It's phenomenal. And let's be frank about it. You know, we're all selling the same stuff. We're all offering the same services. So there is nothing really unique about talking about PPC or SEO anymore. However, I think if you go into it, and certainly this 6 year climb for me to this exit that I've done, I went into it with a different angle. It was very much business consultancy slash with, again, coming at it from an entrepreneurial side. You know, I've been a business owner. I felt the pains of trying to deal with agencies, and we've tried to cut through all the noise. And first of all, we are understanding strategically what that client's trying to do. And then secondly, we just so happen to offer SEO, PPC, and social media, and they are the channels or the ways that we go out there and we get the growth for the client. But they are secondary to the front end, which is really aligning to those goals. And I guess it's business strategy really.
Yeah.
And that sort of set us apart because most agencies still go in and they pitch SEO, PPC, social media, and everyone's heard it 1,000 times.
Yeah, it's interesting, is it? I mean, I did a very short stint in the world of marketing, but I personally I came from a bit of a background, sort of a broker essentially,
Yeah.
and I found it really difficult to actually understand. And this is not putting anyone down, but understand what they were talking about a lot of the time. There was a lot of jargon, there was a lot of buzzwords, and I was like, okay, but what are we actually doing? Like, what is this all achieving? And I
Mm.
think the people that could clearly articulate what it's achieving opposed to what it actually does are the ones that stand out.
Absolutely. It's got to be tangible, right? And I think the beauty of digital marketing is that, you do have that tangibility. That pound spend should show you what that pound return is giving you. But yeah, there's a lot of noise in the space, and you have to cut through it. And I think it's extremely challenging for clients to do that. And again,
Mm,
I often joke with people that the industry's become like the double glazing industry of the 90s. Everybody jumps in and starts up a marketing agency. There's people, um, coming straight out of uni and setting up marketing agency, which is amazingly entrepreneurial and fantastic. But then I think there's hundreds and hundreds being set up all the time. But a lot going pop as well. I think
mm.
it's not as easy to get the scale as people think, and clients can be challenging as well. So there's a lot to think about.
So for anyone listening to this that thinks, do you know, I'd really love to get into marketing.
Mm.
What's some kind of advice? I mean, we've had quite a few people from the marketing industry on, and we've talked about university versus going straight into work. And I'll be honest, a lot of people have said, I probably wouldn't have gone to uni, knowing what I know now. I'd have gone straight into a job and learned it there because a lot of the degrees are outdated.
Mm.
But what's your kind of take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go to university, and I've never looked back and regretted it. I think those extra few years getting into the workspace actually, if anything, just made me a bit more commercially astute and aware. Um, I think my advice would probably be, and look, some people need that period and that level of maturity that it gives you and that freedom and whatever to go through it. And some of our best employees, it would be really hard to pick between them. We've got some incredible grads and we've got some incredible people that have just gone straight into the workspace. I think it depends probably on that, on the person, and what they're needing. But there is plenty of opportunity out there for people that go out with a little bit of additional drive. So I've taken on, and this is probably a good way of explaining this. I'm talking around the houses a little bit, but I took on 3 people in the last year that just approached me directly through LinkedIn. And one of them had dropped out of uni, 2 of them had decided not to go to uni, and they asked if there was any work experience, could they come in? And just because they'd been pretty proactive, so there'd been a LinkedIn message. One of them then had actually come to the office and dropped off a CV and asked whether they could have a conversation with me. That sort of tenacious attitude goes
Mm.
a long way. And I think I've got a friend at the moment. I hope you won't mind me saying this, but he's been out of work a few months, and I sat down with him the other day over a beer, and I said, "Look, just are you just sending your CV through Indeed, or how are you approaching this? Like, just go direct to the source. If you want to work for a company, make them aware of you. Don't just wait for a job opportunity to pop up, make one. So I think it comes down to character, but if people are tenacious and they want to get out there, then I think that's the best way to go.
That's brilliant advice. So, I mean, we've heard this sort of in different versions from a lot of founders. It's the people that stand out that don't just send an A4 CV in
Yeah,
and expect to hear an answer back. Because to be honest with you, they're almost getting to the point of being pointless for that initial stage
yeah,
because it's difficult. People haven't got time to read thousands of CVs, but a message or some kind of, maybe you've created content on LinkedIn, you've engaged with someone, that is so valuable, isn't it?
100%. We're living in a time where you can access people in different ways. You just have to just think of something a little bit outside the box. I mean, I can't remember the last time I properly read a CV. I get sent CVs by recruiters all the time, and when we are hiring for people, I ask them just to send me a couple of bullet points in the email. Don't bother sending me the CV, because I physically don't have the time to get through my own inbox, let alone trying to read CVs. So it doesn't really make sense in the modern world.
Mm. And what kind of personality traits do you think someone needs to kind of succeed in the marketing industry?
I think you've got to. I often say to people that come from the sort of client side, I've worked in house, and then they go to a marketing agency, the same thing. I think you really, certainly from an agency perspective, because they are a bit different. It's a slightly slower pace quite often in house. But if you're stepping into the marketing agency world, you've got to be quite good at being organized and being quite autonomous and working that way, because you are going to have to spin plates. I hate that saying, but you are going to have to spin a few plates. You will be jumping from different tasks and different clients, sometimes on the hourly. So yeah, being able to adapt and being quite fluid and agile, I think makes a big difference. And from a personality perspective, you're always learning. So you've got to be willing to understand that there's always going to be something new to learn, and that the industry's evolving at such a pace and constantly, that yeah, you've got to be willing to just keep putting in those extra hours to keep yourself up with the pace a bit.
And is that a case of maybe reading industry news or actually keeping on these social medias and doing it yourself as well, like a bit of practical work, maybe trying to run a small account, maybe on social media, or maybe to trying to increase traffic to a small website you have? Is it a case of trying these things actually practically or theory?
Yeah, I think so. And again, it comes down to how people learn. I mean, for me, I'm definitely a practical learner. We have little workshop sessions within the business now, ideation sessions once a month, where different departments can mingle with other departments, and they brainstorm, they work through things that are happening. That makes a big difference. And I think, again, personally, some of the people that progress the fastest within the business, they do a lot of self-learning. We've got an industry news channel within our Slack account that's constantly being populated by different people within the business, and I probably learn 4 or 5 new things every day just by having a look in there, because there's so much going on. So yeah, I think just really being willing to put in the work and constantly upskill is really important.
What would you say has been the biggest positive of your journey so far? Starting this marketing agency through to, selling it.
I think really for me, it's been able to be part of something from the first 1 or 2 employees, where we're sat you know all hours of the day and evening, ordering pizzas in, excited by this startup that we started to build, and then a few clients, and those clients referred us to more clients. And I think that just being on that journey is incredible. But really, when I look back now, the thing I'm probably most proud of is a lot of the personnel and the staff that we've had along the way. Quite a few of them are with us, some aren't, obviously, unfortunately. But seeing the progression of the people and the types of clients we've been able to service as well. I think early on we kind of would work with anybody, I guess, to get our name out there. Now we've got to a point where we're actually able to be quite selective, and there's something really nice about that. And we can really back ourselves to know that we're going to get results. And I think, yeah, something to be really proud of there for myself, for the team, and for the clients that are involved.
Sure. And then on the flip side of that, what's been the biggest challenge you faced so far?
Oh my God, there's probably about 1,000 a day. Uh, I mean, we're going through challenges now with the change of the economy and businesses wanting to cut back on advertising spend. We had COVID, we've had everything. Um, I think I think what I've realized, the bigger the business gets, the bigger the problems, but actually you always have problems and it's about how you deal with them and how you evolve that makes a difference. I think the biggest challenge has probably been growth, though, if I'm honest with you. We've grown at such a pace so quickly. Literally no employees in 2018, now 55. And we've grown at about 50 to 60% year on year. One year was
Wow.
150% year on year growth. So that growth, you don't always have the processes or the staff or the experience. My own experience at that time wasn't where it needed to be to support that level of 20 or 25 new hires in a year, for example. And how do you bed them in? How do you have the onboarding processes right? You just don't. So we made some mistakes along the way. We didn't get it right for everybody, but I think in hindsight now that's allowed us to get it right today. So all of these things lead to a good place.
And what would you say to someone that's sort of maybe thinking of starting their own agency? Any kind of advice for those kind of people?
Um, I would probably say if you're looking to start your own agency, just make sure you do your research, look into your own niche, whether there's an industry experience that you've had that you feel really confident with, that you can approach. I think having a bit of baseline knowledge would go a long way. Also, if you've got any potential clients or people that you could approach to give you that, even if it's some pro bono stuff early on, just to practice and make sure you're in the right place. It's not a bad way to go. And probably the biggest thing I would say, I often look back now and think, God, I wish I'd gone even harder, faster. I would just say, take risks and be willing to go for it. There's plenty, there might be lots of agencies and lots of competition, but if you have a niche and a slightly different way of approaching things and presenting yourselves, there's plenty of market share still out there. It's endless really. So yeah, go for it, but make sure you make the right decisions.
Sure. And what does the future look like for Digital Ethos?
Digital Ethos is now part of a much larger group. So we have around 1,000 staff globally.
Wow.
And the real focus is to keep growing our UK proposition. We'll then probably look at some further acquisitions in Europe and plan really from an agency perspective is to scale to a potential IPO in the next few years or who knows. But certainly it's growth led. And we'd like to become one of the household marketing names, certainly in the UK, if not globally.
Wow, amazing. And any plans with Tobin Capital, more investment, maybe working with startups, things like that?
Definitely. Yeah, I've actually had a few really interesting conversations just this week. And yeah, we'll continue to look for the right opportunities. I've got a real sort of focus on sustainability type clients and eco tech and had some really exciting opportunities there. So yeah, I'll continue to do that as we go forward.
Amazing. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, Luke.
You too,
Really
Dan.
appreciate your time. Where can people find you and find your business?
You can definitely find me on LinkedIn. It's just Luke Tobin /Luke Tobin on LinkedIn. And also the Digital Ethos website, digitalethos.net.
Amazing. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you so much.